Welcome back to the Keep It Or CHANGECARS podcast. I'm Nicky, Nesh, your host with the most, and today I have a friend of mine in the industry, a very good friend of mine. You guys have been seeing him on the channel as of late because he's been my driving partner. I call him Gregory, and I don't think that's your full name, right?
It is. That's my full name when I'm in trouble.
Oh, Gregory.
Yeah.
Oh, so I am right.
Yeah, so if I'm in trouble, it's normally Gregory, but it's on a normal day today, it's just Greg.
Just Greg. So
Yeah.
I call him Gregory. I didn't even know that's his full name. I'm with Greg Dennis Reviews. That's the man behind the camera, behind the videos, behind everything you see on social media. And I see quite blowing up on TikTok. But before we speak about that, tell us, who is Greg? Well, don't tell me. Tell the audience, who is Greg?
Greg, he is an automotive junkie, a guy who likes to be creative and, yeah, just to try to do things differently. Just a normal guy. I don't do this as my day-to-day job either.
Okay.
So it's just a hobby of mine that I've just turned into something that I can enjoy doing after work, before work, and everything like that, because I work in advertising. That's my 9 to 5. So yeah, this is just everything outside of work that keeps me sane.
So what made you start your YouTube channel? Actually, let's start there. Was YouTube your first platform that you joined?
No, it wasn't. So mine's kind of like my journey to it's a little, I can't say a little bit different, but it started with me having a passion for cars and everything with an engine and 4 wheels and things like that. And I always wanted to do something around cars. I just never knew what to do. And I was always that guy with my friends when we were traveling, say, hey, did you see that BMW? Did you see that
yes.
320D there? Did they? And I eventually just got zoned out by them because they didn't care about cars. It was just me. And then COVID hit. And I was also a bit of a fan of photography, and I always had an eye for taking pictures and things. So I thought, okay, it's COVID. What can I now do with my life? Because I can't go to work properly. I'm sitting at home. Is anything I can maybe do? So I thought, okay, well, let's maybe dabble in photography, maybe do a little online course or whatever the case is. I then did that. I thought, okay, this isn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, but I never had a camera. So I thought, let me just see what it's like. Is it something I want to do? And then, like I said, COVID hit. And then the sad part of the story for me is in COVID, my dad died. So that was one of the turning points as to why I'm kind of like doing what I'm doing at the moment. Is I thought, things happen so quickly, life changes like this. Do what you want to do right now, because there's no real reason to actually need to wait for it. So that's when I thought, cool, I'm now going to do what I want to do. I bought the camera. I then started to go to car meets and take pictures and go to dealerships and look at cars. And that's where I kind of started Greg Dennis Reviews. It was an Instagram account that I then started to just post pictures of all of the cool cars that I like. I used to also then get into the press releases and just post those existing pictures on my Instagram and speak about car news. And things kind of just started to grow and escalate from there, where I then started to actually start dabbling in the video and doing some reels. And I then got to a point where I got my first test car, and then got the second one and the third one.
What was your first test car, actually?
First test car was the Jaguar I-Pace.
Oh, it started off on the high note with an electric car
I started off on an electric car, so I didn't even have a proper engine.
How was that?
That was a pretty cool experience. So I was still at the point there, still trying to figure out what is it that I'm doing, what am I doing that's different to everybody, how can I make myself stand out from everyone else that's doing car stuff.
100%.
But otherwise, yeah, it was very cool. It was obviously the acceleration and like the whole driving experience around an EV is so different, but also so difficult to try and portray and to show people on a video.
Was that your first electric car that you've driven, or you had driven an electric car before?
No, that was the first.
How was that, moving from a combustion vehicle into something?
No, it was very cool. And so I'd never been in a lot of the bigger fancy cars before either. So I'd always liked cars and looked at them from a distance and kind of loved them and drooled over them and like that sort of thing. So I'd never driven too many of them. So the first time I got in to drive one of these cars was the I-Pace, and it had all of the torque and it comes instantly and you get thrown in the back of your seat. So it was quite the theatrical experience, but definitely something I'll always remember. Yeah.
So how many years has this been? Is it 4 or 5 years?
So I officially started my accounts on Instagram, and that I think it was mid 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially 4 years.
It's been about 3 years, and ever since then, I've started to then dabble in YouTube, and I thought, let me try to do some long format content. I then got into doing some TikTok too. And yeah, I think the rest is history.
100%. So speaking about the industry that we're in,
Yeah.
how did you move from attending like the car meets dealerships into working with the OEMs themselves?
So there, it's coming from my marketing background. I was fortunate enough to have some good contacts in the automotive industry, which helped me start off with. So I used to do some of the advertising for OEMs in the past. So that's why I used those contacts to get like this car and that car in the beginning. And then I think it's of the content I created, it started to gain some traction, and people started to see, oh, that's Greg, this is what he does. So I then started to, as I said, follow the press releases. That's where you go and get all of the PR's email addresses and things like that. So here's a little tip for you guys. Go look at all of the email addresses at the bottom of all the press releases. You'll find the people to go and bug for all of these cars and stuff.
And I know we have our own challenges within the industry. Like I have my own, you have your own.
Yeah.
What has been your biggest challenge in the industry?
I think it goes hand in hand with going to go and actually go find the test cars. So as I said, getting into it and actually going and getting cars from OEMs starts with actually doing your homework, right? Going to find out who to go and speak to, DMing the brands on Instagrams and all of that. And, you know, some of them will take the bites and some of them won't. But I think that's probably one of the challenges is you're going to get ignored. Not everyone's going to respond to you. And if they do, they're probably going to say that there's either no space for you right now or our list is full. But those are just things you take on and you move on and you go speak to other brands and you keep the ball rolling.
So before we actually speak about, because today I actually want to do things a bit different. I want to speak about you and also speak about what's happening within the car industry, like the motoring industry in terms of the pricing of vehicles. I know that's something we speak about on daily, the vehicles that are being launched in the year 2024. I just want to touch on, for you, what don't you like about the industry and what do you like about the industry?
So it's a tough one because if there's anything that I don't necessarily like about the industry from either a content creator or a reviewing point of view or things like that, it's probably going to come down to the fact that you aren't always going to be invited to a launch. You aren't always going to get that test car you wanted. You aren't always going to be considered, or there's just going to be inconsistency. So you'll be invited to this launch, but you won't get that car, or you'll get this car, but you won't get invited to the next 3 launches. So for me, I think it's more about consistency than anything.
Okay.
And if you are doing really well and you've done well on certain brands and other cars and things like that, you'd always think that you'd be considered, but that's not always going to be the case. So for me, I think it's more of a consistency thing than anything.
And your biggest achievement so far? That one thing that you achieved and you're like, okay, this is something for me.
Okay, I'm gonna cheat and give you 2.
Okay, go ahead.
So for me, the first one was getting invited to an international launch.
Oh yes,
or an international event. So when was it? Was it last year? I got invited to the Japan Mobility Show.
Okay.
So I went all the way to Japan with Nissan, and we went to go check out all their brand new concept cars and what they've got in the works for all their technology and research and development and EVs and all of that sort of stuff. So I think that was a huge accomplishment from my side to be this guy who doesn't do this for a living, but just has such a passion for creating and doing content and things like that, to get recognized and invited to something of that magnitude and to fly business class and
everything,
all that cool stuff that comes with it. And then the second one was to get voted and be part of the top 5 in the Content Creator Awards.
The DSTV ones, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I remember last year. Yes.
So last year I made the top 5 in the automotive sector, and the year before I made the short list, which I think was top 10 or something like that. So 2 years in a row, slowly getting better and better.
Did you enter this year as well?
I wanted to, but they've removed our category, so
you can't enter anymore.
No, we can't really enter anymore. So yeah, those are my 2 biggest things that keep me going and keep me wanting to do this. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense. So before we actually speak about the vehicles and everything that's been happening in the year 2024, let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Looking to buy a new or used car? Visit changecars.co.za.
So welcome back. Greg, before we actually move into that, there's one question I forgot to ask you. What has been your favorite brand to work with? Could be, name three, your top three brands that you've worked with that you say, yeah, I owe them my life.
Top three brands to work with.
Yeah.
I would definitely say Mercedes-Benz is going to be up there with one of them. I think the reason is just for, the opportunities that you get given, the cars that you get given, the events and the launches you get invited to. Again, I think it just comes down to them trusting and knowing exactly what you can deliver. So there's that. I've also obviously need to owe a lot to Jaguar Land Rover. Obviously getting the I-Pace is one of my first ones. Is obviously if I didn't have that, who knows where I would be right now. Not that that they necessarily blew up, but it gave me the opportunity to get into exactly what I'm doing. Yeah.
Okay, so those three essentially, those are the ones for you. And speaking about actually Mercedes-Benz, they actually have launched so many vehicles this year alone.
Busy. Yeah.
So speak about, I think you said your first launch you went was a Mercedes-Benz GLC launch, right?
This year.
This year
it was. But I think one of the first launches for Merc, it might have been GLC the previous year.
Oh yes.
But obviously we had the GLC Coupe which was launched at the beginning of this year. Yeah.
So what do you think about that car and the pricing, looking at its competitors? Because there's an X3, which is, well, the current one is cheaper. Then there's one that actually just got showcased, I think, a couple of days ago. And what do you think about the pricing of the GLC, looking at the X3 and the Q5? Although the Q5, I think, is a bit outdated.
Yeah, unfortunately, in conversations like this, you don't generally start to think about Audi as your first car or competitor, unfortunately. But BMW is one of those cars that I'm still waiting to test and review, so that they're on the list of the cars that I'm wanting to get into. So I haven't necessarily driven them or got too familiar with them other than looking at them and things like that. But for the Mercs, I think, and especially looking at the GLC Coupe specifically that came out this year, I think the car's got a lot to offer. I mean, the pricing of Merc has been quite I mean, it's been going up and up over the last 2 years and stuff. You've seen a substantial increase, but the inside, the build quality I've noticed, and I think it's got substantially better. If you think about C-Class and stuff, I think it's just to rattle and creak, and you could move the vents around and you can hear them, and you don't really pick that up anymore. So I think in terms of the build quality getting better, the design's looking really, really good, and their engines, I mean, if you look at the Merc engines and how frugal they are, the fuel consumption you can get out of the diesels, I think you're getting some good developments out of engines in that point. So, I don't know, you're getting a Merc, you're getting the looks, the design, the engines, the tech. I don't think the pricing is too bad considering what the industry is looking like right now. Yeah.
And how do you feel about cars in general just being almost like every car that we get to launch nowadays is R1 million, except for the Chinese vehicles, obviously?
Yeah. So I think R1 million become the new 500,000.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just we've got a new car coming. We're going to put R1 million here, and we're going to see where are we going to be below or above?
No, above.
I don't know if that's just the default guide for them.
So now that we're speaking about that, one thing that came to my mind is the Honda CR-V. That's a car that has been buzzing, I think, over the past couple of months or so, because of its pricing. And before that, we saw the Nissan Qashqai get discontinued in South Africa, and that was not even R1 million. Do you think the Honda will follow suit, being discontinued for South Africa? Because I don't see someone paying R1 million for a Honda CR-V.
Yeah. And I generally also used my comments on social media as a gauge to see what the rest of the car community and fans and stuff are thinking, and I think they're just as shocked as the pricing of the CR-V as what we are.
You did get to test the CR-V, right?
I did.
How were the comments on your platform?
So they were exactly what we're thinking. We can get 2 Chinese cars for the price of the CR-V, and Honda's not going to sell any of them. I mean, the sales have been trickling in, but I don't think that they're where they should be for a range-topping car for the Honda brand. I think.
Yes.
And in my review, I actually said that I think that this car probably needs to be priced at around 850 at a max.
At a maximum, yeah, definitely.
But anything more than that, I don't think that it's going to bode well for Honda.
Okay, so obviously the Hondas and everything else that's R1 million. Let's speak about the ones that are not R1 million that have launched this year. The Chinese. Yeah. You attended a launch yesterday of the Haval Jolion
Pro. Yeah,
yes.
And again, I go back to the comments, and the people are telling me that that's what they want to see. So they're happy with the pricing. I mean, I was also pretty happy looking at the pricing of the new Jolion Pro, and I think it was the... So they're bringing out the new Jolion, and I think there's the City variants, and then there's the Pro variants. Now, the beginning of the Pro variants starts at around 390,000. And, I mean, you're getting those looks, which I think it looks really, really good. I think it's a huge jump for the Jolion. That's been around now since 2021. You're getting 360 cameras. You're getting panoramic sunroof.
Everything.
You're getting all the digital screens. You're getting all of the... I mean, it's not leather seats, but, I mean, they still feel really good. Pretty good drive quality. You're getting a DCT. You're not getting a CVT.
So do you think... Obviously, when you look at a brand like Haval, the way they entered the industry, they entered it coming cheaper.
Yeah.
The exact same way like a Kia and a Hyundai did
The
a couple of years,
Koreans,
the
yeah.
Koreans a couple of years ago. Do you think after maybe let's just say 5-10 years, you'll see the Chinese break through to the million rand mark? The same way that there's a Kia for million
you can
rand.
see there's a similar strategy there. So I mean, I wouldn't put it past them if that was the case. I mean, if you look at things like the Tiggo 8 Pro Max, so I think you've got that currently on test now.
Yes,
so
yes.
if you had to compare that to the CRV in terms of like the spec you're getting, all the fun tech, the add-ons, all of that, it doesn't come close to even comparing the two.
Yes, yes.
But I think there's about probably a 300,000 rand difference.
Between the two. Yeah.
Between the two. So if you look at someone trying to understand and be respectful of a million rand price, a car like the Tiggo 8 Pro Max probably could find its way up there in the next 2 or 3 years. But I think if you look at what you're getting for it,
it would make sense.
It would make sense compared to the CRV.
The CRV. The CRV has a... I would just like to see come November, December, in terms of the sales for the CRV and the sales of the likes of the Cherries and the Havals, comparing that to that.
Yeah, and I think if anyone's going to be buying that Honda, it's probably going to be previous Honda buyers.
Because I saw some of the comments were saying even previous Honda buyers that they wouldn't spend R1 million for a Honda.
Yeah.
So but I actually really do like that vehicle, and I think the only downside of the car is the price. Honestly, I think it's just the price.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's a really, really nice car. It looks really good. It's got a really nice inside.
And it's competing with a lot of vehicles that are less than that amount of money, because we could name a couple of SUVs. Off the top of my head, I can think of there's a Tiguan, there's a Kia Sportage, there's a Hyundai Tucson, there's the Cherry that I have now, Qashqai, although that's discontinued. There's so many vehicles under that, and at R1 million price point, X3, XC60.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money. So we actually have a few questions from the last podcast I did. So I just want us to touch on that, and then we'll take it from there. So the first question here is from Given. All three questions are from him, essentially. So the first one is, for instance, when you request a car for a review and you receive it, do you feel the pressure to give a positive review to maintain relations with the brand and secure future requests? This is common amongst car reviewers, especially sponsored videos. For example, they will be praising styling of the car as beautiful, even if it's not. So I want you to touch on that. Do you feel the pressure to give a positive review on every car that you get, just to keep the relationships going?
Not at all. I mean, there'll be a sense of maybe wanting to lean towards that in the beginning when you're starting off and you're getting cars, because you're getting a car from them for the first time. You don't really want to give it a hugely massive negative review. But as I've gone along here, I've found that there's a lot of within yourself, you feel compelled to be truthful to your audience, right? So there's going to be a level of negativity that you kind of need to come across, that you need to speak to the people about. But I'm not always going to put a lot of pressure on myself to always be as negative as possible in a review. I'll be as honest as I can be. There'll be negative elements, but you need to be as honest as you can.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that I think people also need to understand is that when we give a review, essentially you don't want to give a negative review on a vehicle, because you ideally think every car should be perfect, although it's not possible, right? And I believe you need to give an honest review, because people watching our videos or pictures or whatever, they end up buying that vehicle based on what we say.
Yeah.
So if I say, for example now, had we said we agree with the pricing of the Honda CR-V, everything is fine with the Honda CR-V, that, and someone goes and buys the vehicle, has a bad experience with the vehicle, they're going to come back to us and say, but Greg and Nicky said X, Y, Z. And then I think that's where people don't understand, is that we don't want to give a negative review, essentially. But we do give it for you guys, so that you guys can understand what you're getting yourself into. So that we can say, but we told you the truth about the vehicle. If the vehicle is bad, like now, the only thing we keep saying about the Honda CR-V, the car is a good car.
Yeah.
It's just the price.
Yeah.
If it was a bad car and it was cheaper, if it was, let's just say it was 500,000 rand, but it was a bad car, we would have still said it's a bad car. The same way there's, speaking about your entry-level vehicles, would you recommend a Quid? All those cheap, would you recommend a Quid?
I'd say yes, because there's a market and a pricing for everyone. Everyone's got their price. Everyone's got what they need to, what they can afford on a car. If I say don't ever go buy a Quid, rather go put that money into something else, then you're more than likely going to be buying something secondhand because that's what you can afford. But then now you're going to think about the maintenance of it, and then that's going to cost you additional money. So like, something that I always try and think of when I do the reviews is there's always a market for the car that you're reviewing. So if I'm going to be in a Suzuki Swift, right, and I'm going to complain about the plastics, it makes no sense
because of the pricing of the vehicle.
And it's there's always going to be small and little things, like, and it's always, some of them might be personal, and some of them might just be in general because of everyone feels the same about the car. Like now, I just also gave back the JQ J7.
Oh, yes.
And for me, it's a good car. But personally, for me, I'm not going to go and buy it, even if I had the money, because as good as the huge screen is on the inside, there's barely any buttons in the car. Everything gets done through the screen. And for me, I'm not a huge fan of that. And that's just my perspective on it, and a little bit of a negative aspect to like that sort of review for me. Yeah.
So how much was the JQ that you actually had on test? That specific one?
That was 680,000.
The Chinese and their pricing, oh my God.
Yeah, but it starts at 550.
It starts at 550 all the way up to 680.
Yeah.
That's actually quite...
It is.
For the car that you're getting and the looks as well.
For the looks and the tech and all of that stuff, they're fighting.
Yeah, they really are. So there's the second question. Guys, also please, if you guys really want us to speak about something on the podcast, please do what Given did. Comment down some questions. I'll always note them down and I'll always answer them. So here, the second one is with regards to basically the industry that we're in. He says, I've noticed that when you're asked to review a particular car, you often respond that you're not affiliated with the car journalist covering that car brand. In such cases, why not consider renting or borrowing a car from friends and family for a review? So I think this is essentially saying, for example, if let's just say, okay, I'll use Ford because they love me anyway, so they won't get angry. So let's just say, for example, my audience would request for a Ranger Raptor, for example. And then let's say I don't work with Ford at all. They request for a Ranger Raptor. I personally would say, I don't work with Ford, so I can't get the vehicle. So I think he's alluding to, then why don't I just borrow the vehicle from a friend or family member or rent the vehicle? So the first part, I'm not really a fan of borrowing vehicles from a family member or anything like that, because anything can happen. You can get into an accident, all those type of things. Insurance
is different to
Insurance is different to a press car.
Yeah.
You understand? So with press cars, I get the car, I get in an accident, it's covered. As long as it's not negligent, it's covered. When it's someone else's car, that's a whole different story, right? That's the first point. The second point is the whole hiring route. Cars are expensive.
I was going to say, that's kind of self-explanatory there.
Cars are expensive to hire. And I know some of you guys don't watch those ads. Once that ad pops up, you skip. So how can we afford? So I think it makes, for financial reasons, it doesn't make sense for us, for me, to hire a vehicle and put out a video on the vehicle. As much as I'd love to do it, but there's the holding deposit you need to put down. Then there's the hiring of the vehicle. Yeah. And then there's, when you do return the vehicle, it must go back with the full tank, all those type of things. Then anything can happen as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's insurance. There's the excess and all of that too on a rental car, which is always going to be bad.
Exactly. So I think in that regard, that's the reason why I think also for you, we don't rent vehicles.
Yeah.
Rather wait for, I think, when it's your time to work with the brand and then get to review their vehicles.
Exactly.
Then the third point is, I'd like you guys to discuss balloon payments interest rate and discuss between buying a car cash or installments on your podcast. Teach us about those topics. So I'll speak about those point number 3. I'll speak about it properly when I have Michael Pashut here, because he's the one, he's the genius in all these things. But I'll just touch on like balloon payment and explain what is a balloon payment in case you don't know what is a balloon payment. So essentially a balloon payment, let's just say I want to buy a car that's R1 million, right? So let's say I want to buy, okay, I think we're tired of you speaking about that car, but I wanted to say it, but I want to buy a car that's R1 million. So exactly on the dot, R1 million. Balloon payment is essentially how much the dealership is going to take out of that R1 million. So if the dealership offers you 25% balloon payment, they're going to take out 25% off the initial price of the vehicle. So 25% of R1 million is 250,000 rand. So they take out that 250,000 rand, put it aside. Then they sell you the vehicle for 750,000 rand. Then you finance the vehicle for 750,000 rand. Let's just say you're paying, let's just say 13,000, I don't know. You're paying 13,000 a month over 5 years, right? With a 25% balloon payment. You're going to pay 13,000 rand for 5 years for that 750. Once you're done paying for 5 years, you need to have 250,000 rand cash ready to pay off the balloon payments. If you don't have that 250,000 rand cash to pay that off, you need to refinance that 250,000 rand. So maybe for another 3 years, for example. At maybe the exact same thing, or maybe let's say 10,000 rand this time around for that R1 million car. So if you end up paying more than what you would have paid if you didn't take a balloon payment and for longer. So let's just say it's 5 years for the 750, 3 years for the 250. You end up for one car 8 years. And take it from me, I personally will never tell you to get a car on balloon payment.
Red flag.
I feel like if you want to buy a car and the first thing you're even thinking about is a balloon payment, for me personally, you can't afford the vehicle.
You're not ready.
You're not ready. Hold it up a bit, look elsewhere. And with interest rates, I need to touch on that because a lot of first time buyers, they make a mistake, especially with financing. They make a mistake of, let's just say you are the bank. I come to you, I say, hi, I want to buy X car. Then you offer me the interest rate. You're telling me interest rate 14%, the first offer. So a lot of people, because my first time, I really, really want the car, they'll just take the offer because it's the first offer without knowing that there's prime and then there's prime plus 1 or prime minus 1. And I think now prime is around, I'm not exactly sure how much it is. But essentially, what you should never do is never take the first offer, because the first offer is the bank lowballing you basically to get a higher interest. So at 14%,
they want your money. They want your money.
So if Greg offers me 14% for X vehicle, I can just say no, I don't want it. Never take the first offer, because they'll come back to you and say, okay, 14% was a bit too much. Let's look at 12, and then you can start negotiating. That's with regards to just interest, but we'll speak more about that when Michael Pashut is in studio. And I think that was buying a car cash as well. The decision between buying a car cash and installment. I think, if you can...
if you've got the money.
If you can afford to buy a car cash and don't affect your daily lifestyle or your lifestyle in general, just buy it cash. Don't go the finance route if you can afford. If you have money to buy a car cash and you feel like it's still going to affect your daily lifestyle, but you really do want the vehicle, then take half of the money that you have and use that as a deposit. And that will decrease largely your monthly installments. So I think that's just a few things we need to touch on. And then let's hear a word actually from our sponsors. Actually, this time around we're going to hear it from Michael Pashut. Actually, you'll hear his voice essentially.
Looking to buy a second-hand vehicle but not sure what you're getting? Screen It. Screen is able to inspect and assess second-hand vehicles from garages and private sellers across South Africa, protecting you from unscrupulous sellers and online scams. Our detailed, unbiased reports give you the peace of mind you need. There are screeners conveniently located in all of South Africa's major cities. Don't buy a vehicle before it's been screened. Visit screen.co.za to find out more.
So that was Michael Pashut. Now we're essentially reaching the end of the beautiful podcast with Gregory here. But Gregory, what do you have lined up next? What test car are you receiving next? Is there any launches coming up? Those type of things. Run us through that.
I'm still concerned that I'm being called Gregory. Am I in trouble?
No, I just prefer
Okay.
Gregory.
In terms of test cars coming up next, I've got the Audi RS7.
Ooh, are your pockets ready?
So, yeah, no, they're not ready. But there's certain cars that I'll definitely dip into the pockets for to refuel and to drive with a little bit of fun and that sort of thing. Yeah, your twin turbo, 4-litre V8, big power, lots of noise. Yeah, really looking forward to that one. And I've also got the Volvo EX30. So,
oh yes, that's
different end of the spectrum.
Yeah, power and sound and combustion engine. This side you have power, no sound, and electric.
Yeah.
Oh, but the EX30 is beautiful.
Yeah, can't wait. I went to the launch, so I can't wait to see what it's like to live with for that week that I've got it. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Do you see the figures of the 0 to 100?
Remind me?
I think it does in like 3.7 seconds.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was... Yeah, I think that top of the range was also that 0 to 100 was competing with some of the bigger performance cars.
And for just under R1 million for that vehicle.
Yeah.
I think that's what amazes me so much about that specific Volvo. Like, such a good product.
And the thing with electric cars, you have to change your mindset now because they're going to be slightly cheaper than your more expensive performance cars. But they're going to give out the same or even similar performance. And because it's an electric drivetrain, recharging it is also cheaper than putting fuel in.
So I think it's just the sound aspect of. I think we just need to get a hold of
the sound and the character,
sound,
and I think that's what you're missing from a petrol powered.
Actually, now that you mentioned the sound and everything, the car that came to my mind is obviously the C63, the new one. You've been in that one. I think it's priced at what 2.4, and then for that F1 edition 2.7. Tell me, one, for you because you've been in the car, how is the car? Two, for 2.4 million rand, would you buy it considering like an M3 is just 2 bar?
Yeah.
And then I think even the RS7 that you're getting is in and around that 2.4, 2.7 mark.
Yeah, it is. In terms of buying, I don't know. That's a lot of money to put into a car like that, but is it worth it? Maybe, maybe not. But in terms of what the car has to offer being in it, it's something you just have to change your perspective on. It's a C63, but it's a new world of C63, right? There's no V8, there's the 2-litre with plug-in hybrid technology and
100%.
510 kilowatts and 1,000 and something Newton meters. It's ridiculous power, but I think what you're getting from it is all of the technology within the car. You've still got a 48 volt mild hybrid system within that. You've got the plug-in hybrid system. You've got the engine. You've got all three of those working together all the time, giving you boost at different times. And the 4MATIC system, I think it's a computer within a computer within a computer. You're not going to get the V8 rumbles. You aren't going to do all of that, but you're going to get the speed, the power, everything of what I think the future of
cars are going anyway.
Cars and AMGs going, but yeah.
I see on the CLE they brought back the V8.
They did.
So I think so bullying works. So when we must bully them more.
I think they got cyber bullied badly.
do you think a facelift C63 will still be a 2-litre, considering that the CLE will be getting like the V8?
I think they're going to keep the C63 with the 2-litre plug-in hybrid. I think anything above that, when they bring out if there's going to be an E63, whatever the case is, I think that's going to follow suit with the CLE. Okay. And we'll probably see a V8.
Makes sense. Guys, we've covered so much in this episode, from Greg, from cars, from balloon payments, interest rates, and we're going to still speak more about these things, obviously, in the next coming episodes. Greg, thank you for coming.
Cool. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Just tell the audience, the people, where they can find your content.
Cool. So you can find me at Greg Dennis Reviews on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, and Cars with Greg on Twitter, because Greg Dennis Reviews was too long and they didn't want to accept it.
Fair point. Twitter's strict like that, or X is strict like that.
Yeah.
Okay, no, thank you for coming in studio. This was the Keep It Or CHANGECARS podcast, proudly brought to you by Change Cars and All Things Motoring. And I'm sure you guys are wondering, what is All Things Motoring? All Things Motoring is a TV program, actually.
It is.
On Ignition Channel 189. Michael Pashut is the host. You'll see him there. You will see us there as well. That's if you look properly. I think we should tell Michael when we're on TV again. Don't you think?
I think so. From the small screen to the big screen.
Yeah, I think we should move from you guys watching us. I don't want you guys to be able to watch us on your phones. Okay, but you can with just TV now.
Yeah, you can.
But
we'll take it.
We'll take it.
We want to be on TV.
We want to be on TV. And Change Cars. What is Change Cars? I'm sure you guys have seen Change Cars on my platforms, on Greg's platforms.
Yep,
Basically, Change Cars is the safest online surfing platform for vehicles. And what I mean is that every dealership that you see on the Change Cars website is vetted by the OEMs. So you can't essentially get scammed. If you do get scammed on the Change Cars website, please call Michael Pashut. His numbers are there. Call me. I don't know where you're going to get my numbers, but call me and Greg. We will come and tell you that you won't get scammed.
What other company are you going to have the MD's phone number
on the website?
On the website. So I think that says a lot.
So if you go to the Change Cars website and I think you press by contact us, you'll see Michael Pashut's actual number. The number that I have, it's there. If you go to other websites, I don't think you'll find the MD, the big boss's number there. Like, it's a very... Go to Switch Off South Africa. Go look if you can see if you can find my number. Go to Great Dennis Reviews. Let's see if you can find the number. I think that just speaks about how confident Michael is about his platforms and how safe the Change Cars is overall. So I've told you guys everything you need to know about the cars, the questions you guys asked. You guys know a bit more about Greg. This is his first time on the podcast. It definitely won't be his last. I'm even planning on doing like a round table with maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people. And I'll see you guys on the next video. I'm Nicky Nesh from Change Cars and All Things Motoring and Switch Off South Africa and everywhere else you've seen me. That's Greg Dennis Reviews.
Thank you.
And I'm signing out. Greg, you know how we do it, right?
I remember now.
Okay. And I'm signing out.